teachers see, they will get additional punishments according to our plan.
And also, what's your budget about the month?
Would you like me to recite the total funds for you? Please wait one second.
And also, you mentioned about the therapy of addiction. Who is going to give the therapy?
Sorry.
Who is going to give us therapy about self-addiction?
According to our plan, I mentioned that teacher counselor would perform the therapy.
Where are you going to find a teacher counselor?
Teacher counselors are in counseling room, the office.
And how are you going to implement technology learning into your classes? You mentioned nothing about this.
Oh, we are going to merge technological lessons into our classes because we are going to ban cell phone.
So you don't have any method to let students learn with technology?
Oh, we did mention it in our plan.
Can you say that again?
We did mention the technological lesson in our plan.
And how are you going to do this?
It wasn't mentioned in our plan, sorry.
Okay. And what kinds of face-to-face communication are you saying?
We're saying offline interactions.
So chatting or discussing?
Yeah. Thank you.
1 minute preparation. Second negative constructive stage, 5 minutes.
Before my speech, I would first like to respond to the affirmative contentions. First, about their evidence problem. Their evidence about have lower score with cell phone if MS students use the cell phone for non-education purpose. In our plan, we will make sure the students use it for learning. So this problem can be solved. Another problem is distraction. The plan they make is a superficial measure. They just stop students from using cell phone. They can ensure that if the cell phone are taken away, the student won't be distracted by other things. The reason students don't focus in class because they are not interested in the class. If they don't want to listen to a class, the distraction problem still cannot be solved by only banning the phone. And the third problem is communication. Their evidence of communication doesn't show that the participants are friends or a stranger. If really the sample of stranger can apply to a school, we admit that the face-to-face communication the number of face-to-face communication are decreased with cell phone. So in our minor repair, we can solve this problem. I will detail in my speech later. And fourth problem is addiction. According to the forbidden fruit fact, if we ban cell phone at school, students might use more at home. It might cause more big harm. For example, in 1996, the government outlawed production and trade about cigarettes. The number of smokers increased. And using cell phone and smoking can trigger dopamine. So it can prove that forbidden fruit effect really exists. And after banning the phone, it can cause more big harm. And the final problem is that they didn't detail their technology learning when the post-examination time. They just ignore our question. They don't mention what the device they are going to use. Then I would like to show you how cell phone can benefit the students based on curricular guideline of 12-year basic education, which emphasizes that each individual is an autonomous learner, and act to stimulate students' learning motivation instead of focusing on their school academic performance. So why is cell phone important in self-learning? New technologies have given us the unique ability to reach this goal with greater success. Students can search for the information they need and learn what they really like immediately. Acquiring the information they like encourages students to have more interest in learning. Also, they can get further if they can get further knowledge after the class, they can have deeper impression about that field. It can lead to better learning outcomes. However, when we use cell phone instead of tablets or computers, that is because 94% students have a cell phone nowadays. It's the most accessible and convenient tools for them to use. Also, it won't cost extra money for buying the devices. Therefore, we strongly argue that cell phone should not be banned in secondary school. If in a set school, according to a cell phone use rules of ministry education, cell phones should be turned off during the class. If the student use the devices for the non-educational purpose, they will receive punishment. The regulation can solve the problem of distraction during the class. We admit that some students don't understand how to use cell phone properly, so we propose some minor repair. First, school can hold some workshops and seminars in the flexibility learning time. According to the 2019 curriculum guideline, students can make use of the flexibility time, which is 1 hour a week, to take mini courses and workshops on time management and media literacy. They can also choose to do self-learning during that time. And every semester, students have to hand in their self-assessment report, where teachers observe the students' improvement. Then, as our first speaker has already mentioned, teachers can introduce the concept of co-use into classroom. In this case, it can help teachers to guide every student at the same time, when teachers cannot easily sit down with each student in the traditional teaching process. As for students, co-use devices can reduce the chance the students use the devices for entertainment, because pairing them up can help the students supervise each other and have face-to-face communication. In the world, co-use devices can offer students a new experience of cell phone use. Because we have proved you how our minor repair can already solve the problem in the standard school, with a negative stand firmly that cell phones should not be banned in secondary school. Now I'm ready for the cross-examination.
Second affirmative from examining second negative. 3 minutes.
But where are the evidence card that we requested? Thank you. So what's the main purpose of M-learning? You mentioned mobile learning.
Oh, it can help students get further information right after the class.
Right after the class?
And they can search for the information right after class.
So is M-learning the only way that students can gain knowledge?
They can also co-use device during the class with the teacher's class.
What are schools' crucial purposes? What are the crucial purposes of schools?
They want students to learn, but not only learn the knowledge in the textbook, they can get further information.
Do you have any evidence to show out that M-learning can help students get more information than traditional ones?
It's a common sense because
do you have any evidence?
No, we have evidence, but it's a common sense that there are a lot of resources on the internet.
Okay.
So they can search for them.
Thank you. So would your M-learning be more interesting than the traditional ones?
Yes, because they co-use a device can help them have a communicate with their classmates, and they can discuss the problem together. It will make the course more interesting.
So you're going to make your class more interesting.
Yes.
Is it necessary?
Yes, it can.
So if students are interested in whatever realm, they can learn it. Is it correct?
Can you rephrase the question?
So students can learn whatever they like by M-learning.
They can use. I mean that during the recess time, they can search the information they like.
What about the class time?
The class time, the student has to do what teacher want them to search for the information.
Okay. So you said that students are using CP instead if they don't have cell phones, personal computers. Yeah.
No, I didn't mention that. I mentioned that if there aren't enough tablets, they can go to a computer classroom to use it.
Oh, so how are you sure that students are using computers for learning? How can you make sure that students are using their computer for learning method, for learning purpose?
Oh, okay.
Can you make sure?
The teacher can help to guide every student, and it can help the students to focus in the quality where they need to learn.
So students can learn anything with cell phones?
Learn anything.
Yeah, anything interesting.
5-minute preparation. stage.
For the reputation, I would like to talk about the goal of high school education. The goal is to empower the learners to learn. Students need to be taught how to learn on their own instead of being spoon-fed by their teachers or learning knowledge by rote. Think about it. Wherever you go, you know that there are boundaries and limitations on how and when you can use your phones. We don't ban them, but why should we afford young people any less respect? Why don't we face up to our obligation to ensure students to use phones positively and powerfully? Now I will start the recitation. First of all, distraction. According to their evidence that the mere presence of the cell phone can lead to distraction. However, the participant, they didn't show us the participant in that study. Is it an adult or is it stranger? It is very important because the environment may vary from workplace to school. Also, they have failed to prove the connection between distraction and banning cell phones. They just take away their phones. They don't care about if the students can really absorb the information. After all, there are lots of resources that could lead to distraction. Concentration is something that you cannot force students to have. The educator's purpose is to make students be passionate about what they are teaching, or let students study by themselves when they have no interest in that class contention. We incorporate co-use into classes so students can supervise each other and thus prevent them from being distracted by games or social media. Also, we will teach them time management and media literacy at the flexibility learning time. But in the affirmative world, they let students start learning how to adapt to phones when they become adults or even when they go to society. Learning the ability of controlling themselves and managing time wisely can be a lifelong advantage, while banning cell phone can only present the short-term effect at this period. Next, there are a lot of holes in their plan. They don't have anyone to supervise the locker, and they cannot ensure that every student will turn in their phones. And if the policy cannot be enforced effectively, the result will only cause bigger harm. Third, the increase of scores are temporary, but the damage on their self-esteem is permanent. Schools should focus on not only their grades, but also their personality. But the affirmative plan will only damage the relationship between teachers and students. Because the truth is that phone may actually affect the relationship between schools and students. Taking away their phones reluctantly will only lead to a discord among them. According to our first constructive speaker, when students are not being listened to, they are less cooperative, and they haven't said anything about it, meaning they are admitted to it. What's more, the student may end up spending more time on phones as a compensation at home, which is the effect of forbidden fruit. As a result, they may never learn how to use phones properly out of rebellion. Next, they don't have specific plan for technology learning, which is very important in the future. If the school cannot equip students with the ability to adapt to the technology, then how can they get along with the technology after they go to the society? All in all, in a formative world, they not only waste the resources we already have, but also prevent students from having multiple learning ways. They are not learning how to embrace phones into their daily lives, even not teaching, regulating, or limiting. Instead, they are completely banning phones, a zero-tolerance policy. So they are resisting its development. The affirmative have failed to cultivate students' abilities on adapting and handling their own cell phone. All they want to see is the immediate effect, but not considering the students' future development. Also, their plan will cost $6.2 billion, and they have no mention about the budget. Where is the budget come from? And are they sure there's gonna be enough money? On the contrary, as our first speaker has said, that up to 91% of students use phones in educational process. Using social media and message board can keep students interested in class and share thoughts and ideas. This can be especially helpful for students who might not be comfortable speaking in class. Also, schools can compensate for the insufficient of textbooks. For an example, it is true that current events have not yet been covered in school textbooks. But are they important? Yes, they are. Are they worth discussing? Yes, they are. Why not laptops or tablets? Because 94% of students already have cell phones, so it costs nothing. What's more, students can anyone will face this emergency, search for information when teachers are busy or learn whatever they want due to phone's convenience. Also, benefits such as prevent students from being distracted. In conclusion, as technology advances, phones have become part of our lives and part of our future. It's the present and people should adjust to it. Thank you very much.
Affirmative rebuttal speech. 5 minutes.
Hello, judges, fellow debaters. My speech includes 4 parts. First, I will respond to the negative questions, and then second, I will respond to the negative contentions and the questions raised during cross-examination, and third, I will respond to the negative minor adjustment, and fourth, summarizing our plans and contention. First, in the affirmative rebuttal, in the negative rebuttal, they questioned us where our funds are. We have already clearly mentioned it on our evidence card that our total fund is 932 million NT dollars, and the government, the MOE, have left for average 6.5 billion NT dollars in the year 2007 to 2017. So it's clearly to say that the government have enough money, and we have clearly demonstrated how many funds we need. And in response to a negative question about our supervision, first of all, students need to hand in their cell phones automatically before school starts, and the high-tech locker will lock the lockers automatically during school hours with a surveillance camera. That means that the lockers do not need to be supervised by anyone. It can be supervised by itself already. Next, I will respond to the negative contentions. The negative asserted that there are so many distractions exist besides cell phones in the classroom, and questions whether those cell phone distractions need to be addressed. However, we have just said that cell phones are one of the most major distracting factors currently within the classroom. We choose to address that because it is relevant to the resolution. We did not address the other distractions simply because it is not related to the resolution, not because we aren't aware of it. Therefore, the affirmative conducts that banning cell phone away is the only distraction treatment we can address at this time at today's topic, and that is the one that will cause the most impact on the students. The negative mentioning cell phone usage at home is more than cell phone usage at school. However, this does not mean cell phone issues at school is not significant, and it does not have any relationship with today's topic. In the evidence card we gave to the negative, we clearly stated that regardless of age, gender, and so on, the presence of cell phones can lead to lower face-to-face interaction and can cause distraction. With the absence of cell phones bestowed into lockers, these face-to-face interaction problems and the distraction problems will be solved. The negative also asserted that students got distracted because the classes are not interesting enough. Let me remind you that education offers students to learn something, whether it is interesting or not. And students may get boring in classes and want to turn on this cell phone to play. Therefore, we the affirmative want to ban cell phone because if classes got boring, and then students will turn on the cell phones and ban, and that is a distraction to the students. Therefore, we want to ban cell phones. The negative, and now I will respond to the negative's minor adjustment. The negative's plan is based on an abstract idea of respect and trust. But if everything is that ideal, then the current status quo wouldn't have any problems. They failed to prove the possibility of the plan and ignore the possibility of lying. The negative also said that students can only turn on their phones after teacher's permission. That means the negative do acknowledge the harm and serious problems caused by cell phones. That is totally contradict to the first first negative, which says that there are no serious problems in our status quo, and want the students not to, the negative want the students not to turn on the cell phone without teacher's permission, which is also a kind of ban too. Also, the can make sure what students are learning from the plan. They just said if students are interested with something, they can just learn it from the cell phones at school during classes. But if students are interested in Facebooks or interested in games, so the negative means that they can learn it by the cell phones at school too. Now, allow me to summarize our plan. The government will legislate regulations to ban all digital devices in schools. Parents will need to sign a contract with their child want to bring digital devices, and every student needs to store the digital devices in a high-tech technology locker, and the high-technology locker will only be open before school and after school. The MI therapy, also known as motivational innovation, and existing policy can cure the students who are addicted to digital devices. Total funds of our plan are 932 million NT dollars, and we have just mentioned that the government definitely has enough money to support our plan. As my partner has mentioned, by banning cell phones, we can protect students who are initially not addicted to cell phones from being affected by those who are constantly distracted by cell phone in class. And by existing MI therapy, those students who are addicted to digital devices will be cured. Besides, by putting digital devices away into the lockers, the probability of distraction can be significantly reduced, and the face-to-face interaction can be boosted. Also, And in conclusion, the negative failed to prove that having cell phones in school is more beneficial to students than banning it, and cannot solve the problem they acknowledge, and cannot solve the problem we have just said. So therefore, we the government should ban cell phones, and we the government should win the debate. Thank you.
That's the end of this debate. Soon we'll have the judges give us comments about both teams' performances. Now please wait outside. Thank you. 挂牌请取下来放。